Hello, family. I'm Bishop Jackson, as you know, and this message is primarily for all of the churches that utilize the HC Multicultural Center and their congregations, as well as them as pastors and their leadership. Of course, you're going to get some correspondence from me on this upcoming Sunday. If you have not already received it, it's a handed letter that will be given to you. And I wanted you to be aware of what we're doing, and also give you something that you could share with your congregations if you needed to share it with your congregations. I know the job of a pastor is an amazing responsibility. Many of you have tackled the resurgence of your churches, kind of resetting the ministry and getting ready to do some amazing things. And I believe in you and the work that God has committed to your hand. And so let me just take you down a brief little journey real quick. The Lord gave me the vision for the HC Center, not as a money grab or in a way to raise additional revenue for our church, but as a ministry to help churches that are emerging get started. And we've been very careful to our assignment. Along the journey, my staff has brought some things, as well as our church board has brought some things to my attention that we needed to be attentive towards. Approximately 8 weeks ago, my staff shared with me that because of the rates that keep increasing, utility bills, breakages, having to have repair costs to stuff like restrooms that we're pulling, feminine napkins out of, and all of the things that we keep having, that we're going to have to build in to the matrix of our payment structure that we impose upon the groups that utilize our space, a rate increasement to cover those. And so I basically told our team, I don't want to do that. That's not what we want to do. And they told me, they said, well, what you're charging, we have no cushion for if anything big should ever happen. And I basically stated to them, I said, I believe in the pastors and the churches that we're working with. And I said to them, if something happens, I believe that every one of those churches would come together and help us because they understand that we view them as a family. And they shared with me some information about fair market pricing for kind of doing what we do when churches share, they expect, some expectations and some things that they do and what they charge. And because we've touched bases with other pastors and churches that's done similar things. And I didn't want to do that. And let me explain to you why. I call it the hotel syndrome. And let me explain to you what I call the hotel syndrome. A single woman has a family. She loves her children, and they don't have a home. And so what she does is she goes and rents a hotel room. And every week she spends an exorbitant amount of money on the hotel room that she's not able to ever save. So she's stuck in this syndrome, this cycle that she can't break. I wanted to make sure that what we charged churches was so affordable to them that they were not stuck, that when God gave them the opportunity, they would have enough in reserve and savings that they could make the moves that they needed. I didn't want it to be oppressive. I wanted it to be simply a blessing. And so I fought them making increasements and making changes. And so most recently, when we experienced this situation where we had a power outage, and that power outage created us to lose compressors and some equipment and things of that sort that needed to be replaced. And we needed to do it quickly. We were able to make an insurance claim, we assumed, but our deductible rate was higher, much higher than we thought it was. And so I extended the welcome to the churches that was here to be a part of the process. Didn't ask for much. Asked for small amounts, anywhere from $50 to $100. And some people told me, they said, "Oh, I thought this was just towards people in your congregations." But even if they did, I know that what we represent and the concept which we have, I would have thought that many of the pastors would have joined in and did something. So when my team asked me, they said, "Hey, what did the churches do?" I said they did absolutely nothing. Only one actually verbally responded. And did they do anything? Nothing happened. I must admit I was embarrassed, if I be honest. I guess I had such a high expectation. And I know the world is changing and people got a lot of stuff going on in their personal lives. And so, I played it off and kind of shared with them, that's probably what's going on. Now, as a response, I did send an additional message in our message loop. And that message loop was with all of the churches based on the numbers that were given to us as contacts. I just share how frustrated and, how wounded I was. I could be strong in front of my people and share with them and cover churches so that my team doesn't look at each of the churches or the leadership in a negative way. So, I covered it, I ate it, but I shared with them. And I was very blessed that I believe that 3 of the churches did respond. Of the 15 ministries we work with, they did respond. And so I was elated that happened. I thought that some of the others would have continued, but no, it didn't. And so it brought me back to our committee, and we had to look at how we operate and how we do what we do. At the end of the day, I had to listen to the fact that what my team was saying to me almost 8 weeks ago was sound, solid advice. And their concern is for the vision of what we do and the wherewithal of our local church, because, of course, it became the responsibility of our local church to have to cough up over $9,000 for various different things to do this. Now, thank God that our coffers were full enough to be able to do that, but it wasn't the reservoir from what we do with you all as groups that allowed us. It was from the giving and the support of our local church. Now, and thank you to the countless numbers of members of our church and partners that rose to the occasion, because they did. They believe in what we do. And we've been blessed. But with blessings come a level of responsibility. I have not been a good steward of this process in a lot of ways. You said, well, what do you mean? There are some things that we needed to do to cause this to be effective. Remember, this is a model for 3 other facilities that we need to open up to duplicate the process. And there are some things that are out of line, and I want to share those things with you and what we need to do and what prompts that. The first thing is that all of the churches that utilize the smaller chapel are given a time slot of 2 hours, and no more than 2 hours. That's from start to finish, from the time you get in to the time you leave. They've been given a 2-hour window. And with doing that, many of the churches are not adhering to those timelines. And we have to stop that. And let me express to you why. Utilities are through the roof. When churches are here 3-4 hours or even longer than that, it bleeds over to the time when the next church has to start. It creates an uncomfortableness, and that we just can't continue with that practice. Groups that are happening to, we're going to have to make a decision. Brother Thaddeus, we're going to have to make a decision to groups that happen to encourage them to change and find them if that is going on. And so groups that's happening, we're going to have to find. We have to add a fine system and we're going to have to charge you for the overage. We got to make this run like a kind of like a sewing machine in order for it to be effective at the rates in which we are currently charging. For this to be an effective measure and for it to effectively run and do what God's called it to do. It's not what I desire. I hate it. But there's a business side to everything that we do. And if we don't adhere to keen business matrix of something, it's going to all fall apart. And then we will not exist for the people that need the benefit of what we bring to the table. So that's important that you understand that no longer will churches be able to go over. In the main auditorium, churches are given a time slot of roughly an hour to an hour and 30 minutes that they've been given. There can be no exceptions on that. That includes setup and everything, transition, because our log is so our log is so full. And because our log is so full, our need to make sure that there's enough time for churches to exit and the new church to come in is important, that we operate in the spirit of excellence. The other issue that we have is each church is required, as it relates to your memorandum of understanding, to be a part of the cleanup matrix. And so you should be scheduled a date that each church shares in the shared cleaning capacity. If every church is a part of the shared cleaning capacity, we will not have a maintenance problem if every church shares. So on a bi-weekly basis, each church should cycle through to do that. And we're going to discuss that schedule, and you'll get information about scheduling for that. That will keep the church spaces clean, and you will only serve in the capacity of the auditorium and the restrooms that your location service. So, for example, if you're in the small chapel, you'll be responsible for the restrooms that are associated with the small chapel. If you're in the main auditorium, you'll be responsible for a cleanup in the main auditorium and the restrooms associated with that. We will give you the option, if you elect not to want to do those, of paying a janitorial stipend that will cover someone that will come in and vacuum and clean up in your slot of time that you've been allocated. We must do these things to keep the Lord's house together. The next thing that we will do is there is a need for a rate increasement in all of our times and all of our time slots. It's inflation. And unfortunately, we will be doing new agreements with those that will like to, and this will take place starting the July 1st, we will go to a rate increasement. You'll be given information about what that rate increasement will be depending on the amount of services that you have or the location that you will be utilizing. There will be guidelines concerning some things. Now, the flip side of that is that we will, July the 1st, the new key card system will be placed in, and the last week in June, you will have access to come and have your program. So in other words, you'll have a key to the facility. You will never have to wait on someone to unlock the facility, but it will only work during the allotted times that you've been scheduled to get in. So if you come at an off time, it's not going to work. You're not going to be actually able to get in to the building at off times unless you state to us that you need to have a meeting here with parishioners or congregants. We are forced to make this rate change. It's not what we would like to do. We have no choice but to make this rate change to efficiently be able to exist with this model. If our church is going to continue to support what we do, they have an expectation of what they want the other ministries that are in here to do. And I understand. I do understand. But I wanted to share with you. I called a meeting on StreamYard for all of the churches to come in, and absolutely nobody came to the meeting. And so I'm giving this so you'll know, and you can share it with your congregations. The question was asked, maybe this rate increasement is going to cause some churches to leave. I don't want that to happen, but if that's what you need to do, I love you and I'm going to continue to love you. It's not offensive. You just need to give us a 30-day notice. And then, you're able to make that transition without any causation or any recourse from us. We simply understand it may not fit with what you are. I will tell you this, that we will need to know from you as soon as possible what your decisions are. We do have a waiting list of approximately 7 churches that are currently waiting to get in. And so I want to make sure that we're able to serve you, but also able to serve them. Now, getting to the waiting list, because of the service times infractions and not having a clear schedule of how services will go, it's created a problem with us being able to service many of the other churches that are in need of our space. And so there are churches that contact me on a regular basis that need time allotments and time slots to be able to accommodate them. We have not had those because of the dysfunctionality of our scheduling. And it kind of evolved, just a need structure, what we had available when people were coming in, just trying to service the need. We have a printed schedule that we are making schedule changes up immediately. So many of you your times will be pushed up, some by 30 minutes, some pushed back by 30 minutes or so. But we have to make these changes in order to be efficient at being able to do what we need to do. The inefficiency of it is really costing us anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 per month that we're leaving on the table because of it. And it's not a position that we want to take as an organization. No one would shoot themselves in the foot that way. If you had the opportunity of doing well and not doing well, you would choose to do well. So it's not what we want, but it's what we have to do. There will be in your letters, you'll get information about service time changes and dollar amounts changes, and the rule structure that we have. There is some equipment has been damaged, and so there will be a check-in and a telephone protocol that requires you sending pictures of equipment, checking stuff in and checking it out, to make sure that things are not being damaged. Unfortunately, we've been a part of training churches on Sunday, and we're not really able to pull away to train you on Sundays. And so for many of you, we're going to recommend that you will go through retraining. And, that's a cost, there's causation, costs, but you need to do it because the availability of us kind of floating around, we will not be able to do that any longer. If an emergency happened, of course, absolutely. But our staff being able to accommodate, we're a little stretched, and we grow thin. And so I want to make sure that you are doing everything you can do to make sure when you hit the ground running on Sundays, you're able to simply do that and do it effectively. Now, let me share this with you. These changes are not as a result of being disgruntled or upset or emotional. The truth of the matter is they're solid, sound business decisions that must be done for the efficiency of what God's called us to do. These will also be the service times adjustments that we have for multiple locations as we get ready to plant our next location. And we're excited about doing that. And we look to be able to do that hopefully in mid-August. my dear friends and pastors, it has been a pleasure serving you and serving at the capacity that God has allowed us to be able to minister to you. Now, I'll say this to you. I am not offended by the lack of support in our time of crisis because I don't know your story. I am a little bothered by a lack of communication because a lack of communication is important. I thought that we built a family rapport. And then so if there's ever an expectation that we have that you can't meet or something that goes on, communicate. Just send me a text. I've made myself available to every church that's in here. I've tried to love on them and be there. We still got issues to fix. We've already paid for the new compressor. One compressor we could not get immediately solely because of the fact that it was we couldn't use an aftermarket product. We would lose the warranty on all of the other parts of the air conditioning system. So we had to get it from the manufacturer. So we were stuck with that one. And so, they told us it's going to be a couple weeks. And so that's to our little smaller chapel. Now, there is not really a large rate increasement in our smaller chapel. And none of the churches that have just came on in the smaller chapel will experience a direct rate increasement. Those churches are really in the infancy stage. And some of you may choose to say, Pastor, it's rough. And do you have any flexibility in that smaller auditorium? If I do, I'll make it work for you. I don't want to lose you, but I don't want to lose the work that I'm commanded to. Now, let me share this with you. Over the last 4 months, I've had churches that have offered me different rates of astronomical proportion. I understand the product we got. I know this is a gold mine of stuff. It's very rare that you see all of this stuff in one place. I'm not foolish. I am not crazy, nor am I slow by any stretch of the imagination. I just wanted to give you the Bentley of ministry services and the Bentley of things. And I know it looks like we're on top of the world and the Lord has blessed us. But we got to be efficient. We got to be a wise steward of what God has given us. And so much of this is about stewardship and being a better steward of the things that God's given us. And so I'm praying for you and your church's success. And if there's anything that I can do for you, some of you may be leaving as a result of this increasement. And I will be happy to give you a letter of, you that have paid on time and everything. I don't have a problem with being able to do that because you may need that on your exodus. We're going to treat you with abundant love and mercy, and we're going to be there. And if in fact you make a decision to leave, but the Lord directs you to return, we'll evaluate space availability as long as you can adhere to the newer terms and guidelines that we're forging forward. Now, from the bottom of my heart, I want to wish you great success in all that you do. And remember, you're the best part of what we do. You're the hands that help us serve the body of Christ at large through your public example of ministry service, through the preaching and proclaiming of the word. It's been a great day. Have a wonderful day, and thank you.